Tell me when.
When? Do I need to repeat this?
No. Well, the main inspiration for creating The Walking Dead was all the zombie movies that I watched in high school. Mostly Romero movies, a little bit of Lucio Fulci, some others in between. And the main thing that occurred to me is that I never really liked the endings of these movies. It always seemed like they ran out of time, they had to wrap it up, a bunch of characters died, a couple characters were out off into the sunset, and I always wanted to know what happened to these characters next, in the cases where they didn't die. It always seemed like there was a wealth of other stories that could be explored by following them in a long-term way and seeing how they grow and change over time and how this world affects them and how their personalities change and just what they have to do in order to keep their humanity or what happens to them to make them lose their humanity. And that's kind of where the idea for The Walking Dead came about, just basically the zombie movie that never ends.
Now, can you tell us how the actual comic book became a television series?
Well, I was sitting in my house about 5 years ago, I'd say, when I got a phone call from Frank Darabont saying that he had read my comic book and really liked it and was interested in adapting it into a television show. Now, up until that point, I had had a few offers to turn it into an action movie or an anime series, and I'd basically turned them down just because it wasn't really important to me to have it adapted in any way, shape, or form. I really just wanted to continue doing my comic, and if something great came along, I was fine with it, but I was enjoying turning down offers left and right. But when Frank came along, he was the guy who had done The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, and he knew how to adapt material and he knew how to do dramatic work, which was very important to me because it's not just a zombie comic book. It's much more than that. It's a character drama, and the focus is on the characters. And I knew that that was something that Frank could handle really well. So after a few discussions with him, I knew that he was the perfect guy to head it up. And it took a while, but eventually Galen Hurd came into the picture and brought AMC along with it, and things started moving faster and faster, faster than I ever expected them to move. And next thing you know, we've got a television show.
We know the comic is based in Atlanta. How important was it for you that it be shot on location?
Not important. It's very important just because the comic book takes place in Atlanta, and it's for the majority of the issues in the general Atlanta area. And, it's very important because that region kind of comes with a lot of baggage, and it dictates how the characters behave and who they are. And I really wanted everyone to be kind of blue collar. I didn't want any scientists or, military people or politicians or anything like that. I wanted them to be real people, relatable people. I'm from the South, and so I thought it would be a good thing to set it in the South. And Georgia, especially, in the Atlanta area, is just an amazing looking place. And when you watch the TV series, the setting almost becomes a character in and of itself, because there's a lot of unique things that you see there that you don't really see anywhere else. And I couldn't be happier that it's set there.
We hear you wrote the 4th episode. We know you can't tell us anything about it. What was it
I can tell you it's awesome.
Yay! What was it like for you writing a television, screenplay?
It was a weird experience for me because I had already written some of the scenes from that episode in comic book form, and I got to go back and write a lot of characters in the television show that had been dead in my comic book series for 5 years or so. So it was kind of like going home again and bringing an older set of eyes to the story that I've already written, and getting to play with Frank's new characters that are created for the show. So it was a bizarre experience for me in that I was kind of adapting my own material, but also writing a completely new thing. It was a very bizarre thing, and a lot of fun. I hope to continue doing these things.
Would you ever try directing?
No, I was on set. I got to watch Frank direct firsthand, and that looked like work. And I'm at a point in my life where anything that seems like work seems like something I should avoid. So not for me. That said, I'll probably direct something next season.
I hear you. This is an Italian question. What people love about the comic is that it's so well written with richly drawn characters. In your opinion, Do you think that Frank successfully adapted the comic book on screen?
No, absolutely. Frank did a lot of things in the television show that I watch, and it almost embarrasses me because I didn't think of it. Because Frank was able to sit down with the comic book series and say, okay, this happened, and this happened, but I know that down the line this is going to happen, and you know, he had the foresight to be able to work things in to play into upcoming storylines much better than I did as I was writing. And there are little things where he would take just a nugget, just something that I would say, this happened, and then I would just ignore it and move on, because the comic book moves at a very quick pace. And Frank is able to say, no, hold on, there's a lot of story material to mine out of this. And so Frank would take something that I kind of threw away as a bit and turn it into something that's just a really emotional, fantastic scene that I just kind of didn't even realize was there. And so Frank did an excellent job, to the point that I'm a little ashamed of some of the things I missed.
Did you get the opportunity to weigh in on casting?
Yes. Yes, I was asked every step of the way, what do you think of this person? What do you think of that person? And for the most part, I approved wholeheartedly. There were a few people where I would say, yeah, I don't really like that guy. And Frank would say, I don't like that guy either. You're right. So yeah, I guess I did. I never hit a point where anyone disagreed with me. So I don't know how much power I actually had. But it was cool because we were all like 100% in agreement. You know, Andrew Lincoln comes by and we're like, oh yeah, we really like that guy, and everyone's in agreement, and so it actually worked out really well.
I agree. What, you have something? I don't know. Can you hear the noise? Oh, okay.
I can do it all over again.
Let's do it now. What is your favorite? No, looking back at this last 6 years working on your comic, are you happy with the way things have turned out now that you're, at this point?
I don't know how I couldn't be. It's kind of ridiculous. I set out in my career just to write a comic book in a long form for years and years without any kind of interference, and to be able to do that on The Walking Dead, but also have the level of success where it seems like I could do it forever if I wanted to, is more than I could have ever expected. And the television show is just icing on the cake. And then having a television show, but also having it be really good, and so far extremely well received, is something else I could have never foreseen. And so yeah, no, I sometimes I pinch myself. It's a pretty good time for me.
What is your favorite moment from the comic book that has been adapted into the show, if you can say just a tidbit?
There's a lot of stuff in the pilot involving Morgan, who's played by Lenny James, that just comes across really, really well. A lot because of how good an actor Lenny James is, and I think that some of that stuff is probably my favorite. But there's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about, so there are a lot of cool things from the 6 episodes that made it in that I'm absolutely thrilled about, but I wouldn't want to give anything away.
I have 2 more. What is your response knowing that in just a few weeks, 120 countries and 33 languages will be launching your show?
I try not to think about it. No, I really don't think about it a lot. I mean, it's almost too big for me to even understand, so I just kind of ignore it and go about my day. If I dwelled on it for too long, I would just be huddled in a corner with all the stress of it all. But you know, it's fine. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be neat, but it's a big thing. So I try to avoid thinking about it.
How do you have any expectations on how you hope that the viewers will react?
I expect it to be the most watched television show in the history of the world.
And one last question. In your opinion, why do you think this show is different from any other, or what makes it different from any other?
The show, a lot of people will look at it and they'll think, oh, well, that's just a horror show, but it's really not. It's a lot of things. It's a horror show because there are horror elements, there are zombies walking around, nobody's denying that. But the core of the show is a character drama, and it's a character drama in a heightened sense because it deals with the end of the world and a lot of things that more than likely none of us will ever have to deal with, and yet it's completely relatable because it's all about extreme situations and how people deal with that, and it's a very dramatic, dark thing that people aren't really going to be expecting, and I think that the show is really going to blow people away and show people things that they haven't really seen on television before, and because of that, I can't help but think that it's probably going to be a pretty big success.